examination. Today we start with the second session on international relations. Yesterday we covered a number of important topics from international relations, and today we shall continue the discussion. If you guys are benefiting from this initiative, you have to let us know through your comments. If you're liking these videos, do press the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. So before we start, we have a very important announcement. A new English online classroom program is beginning from today, from 7th of May. We have India's leading faculties teaching in this particular batch, and the best part is that Unacademy is offering a one-time discount, a massive discount on the prices for these IAS courses. Following the Unacademy Manzil event, where we felicitated our 2023 toppers, Unacademy is celebrating the success of its toppers by providing you a massive discount. The courses, which are usually priced at around 75,000, is being offered at just 25,000, and today is the last date. That's why I'm stressing on this point. Tonight, the offer comes to an end. It's a one-time limited offer. If you're interested to enroll for the classroom program, do avail this offer, and you can contact the number that was provided in the slide. With this, let's get started with today's discussion and look at the first question. Consider the following statements. Please look at the three statements that have been given over here. I'll read out the statements and I'll give you a minute so that all of you can answer the question live. Do ensure that you participate in the live classes, and do ensure that you take part in the live interaction by using the polling option that will be provided for every question. That will keep the session more engaging for you as well. And at the end, I will be taking some of your doubts and questions, so stay with me till the end of the session. So statement 1 says International Union of Railways, which is abbreviated as UIC based on its French name. It was established in the aftermath of the First World War and the Treaty of Versailles. Second statement says Indian Railways is not a full-time member of the International Union of Railways. Jaipur Declaration was adopted last year during the 18th UIC World Security Congress hosted by India. So you need to check how many of the above statements are correct. So take a few seconds, think about the question, see if you have read about this topic last year. If not, don't worry, I'll explain the topic and I'll provide the right answer as well. Now let's see how many of you can get the correct answer. The polling option is live. I see that some students are saying option A, option B. Priya Kumari says, I'm sure third statement is correct. All right. So more than 70% of the students have said option B, only two statements. Let's evaluate the question. Let's check the statements one by one. Statement 1 is absolutely correct. The International Union of Railways, abbreviated as UIC, it's a global organization, an international organization. It was established in the aftermath of the First World War, after 1918-1919, following the Treaty of Versailles, which brought the First World War to an end. Because the First World War had ravaged the railway network in Europe. So the European countries came together to establish the organization to rebuild the railway infrastructure, to establish connectivity, and to establish railway standards for safety and security of rail transportation. So that is the background of this organization. Now, why is the topic relevant? Why is the topic important for us? The topic is very important because last year, India hosted the World Security Congress of the UIC, the Railway Protection Force, which is responsible for securing the trains and railway stations and railway property in India, organized this conference along with UIC, and at the end of the summit, Jaipur Declaration on Railway Safety and Security was adopted. So obviously, Indian Railways is a full-time member of International Union of Railways. So that is why second statement is incorrect and the third statement is absolutely correct. So majority of you are correct. You have given the right answer. Only two statements are correct, so option B becomes the correct answer. So I have given the points over here. You can take a look. It was established in the year 1922, following the First World War and the Treaty of Versailles. Indian Railways became a full-time active member of this organization in 1957 itself. So, based on this, we can easily deduce the right answer, which is option B. Now, let's move on to the next question. Question number 2. It's based on India's relations with Japan, which has been in the news over the last 1 year. The question says, India and Japan are part of which of the following initiatives? There are 4 initiatives mentioned over here: Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, Supply Chain Resilience Initiative, the Quad grouping or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, and the G4 group. So go ahead, give me the right answer. The poll will be live very soon. Let's see if you know these basic details about India's relations with Japan. In the meantime, I'll set the context as well. I'll tell you why the topic is very important. Last year, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida paid a very important visit to India. Some important agreements were signed, and over the last few years, India and Japan have become strategic partners. They are part of many important regional and global initiatives. So UPSC might ask such a prelims question based on the initiatives that India and Japan have started. So let's see how many of you can get this right. Many students are saying option D could be the right answer. So India, Japan are part of all the 4 given initiatives. So correct answer is option D, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let me provide the context here. As I told you, Japan's Prime Minister visited India last year. That is why the topic becomes very important. Plus, both countries have built a very close relationship over the last few years. Now, both the countries are part of these important initiatives, such as Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. Under Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, India and Japan are looking to fund infrastructure projects across Asian countries and especially African countries. And this is projected as a counter, as a rival to China's Belt and Road Initiative. If China is funding infrastructure projects which are of strategic importance around the world, then India and Japan are collectively countering the BRI of China through the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor Initiative. Next, the question was also mentioning the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative. The Supply Chain Resilience Initiative was established in 2021 following the breakout of the COVID-19 pandemic by India, Japan, and Australia. It's a trilateral initiative between these 3 like-minded countries. Because the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the global supply chains, which until then were dominated by China. As China went into a lockdown, global supply chains were disrupted, affecting the economies of several countries. This highlighted the vulnerability of several economies. It showed to what extent other countries were dependent on the Chinese economy and on the supply chains dominated by China. So, following the pandemic and the disruption caused to global supply chains, India, Japan, and Australia decided to diversify their supply chains and to make the supply chains resilient to such shock events. Be it a pandemic, be it wars or conflicts, they all have the potential to disrupt the global supply chains, which could affect economic growth in several countries and around the world. So these 3 countries came together to start the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative to build resilience in global supply chains and to diversify their supply chains. Next, the question also mentioned the Quad grouping, the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. The Quad consists of India, Japan, Australia, and United States. Its initial foundation was laid back in the year 2007 when these 4 countries came together to form a diplomatic security alliance focused on the Indo-Pacific region. But following a lot of opposition from China, India backed out from the initiative. But in 2017, these 4 countries, which are facing multiple threats from an aggressive China, which was violating international rules in the Indo-Pacific, it pushed these 4 countries to come together and form a collective grouping called the Quad, or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. This group is focused on the Indo-Pacific region, and the primary purpose is to establish the rules-based order. to ensure that all the countries in the Indo-Pacific follow the international rules and international law. Because China in the Indo-Pacific has been violating international rules like the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. It has picked maritime disputes, territorial disputes with several countries across the Indo-Pacific. And China is resorting to aggressive military and diplomatic tactics to target other countries and pressurize other countries. So this disruption to rules-based order is a threat to the stability of the Indo-Pacific. So that is why these four like-minded democracies have come together to form the Quad, which has been an informal diplomatic grouping focused on upholding the rules-based order of the Indo-Pacific. They are looking to protect the freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight, which is a guaranteed right under UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Under UN clause, every vessel, every aircraft has a fundamental right to navigate through international waters and international airspace. China has often tried to disrupt freedom of navigation and overflight when it comes to the South China Sea dispute. The vessels and aircraft belonging to the other countries have been intercepted by the Chinese armed forces, causing instability and tensions in the region. So that is why the Quad grouping becomes very important. And also remember that Quad has recently diversified into other areas and sectors of cooperation as well. It's not just limited to establishing a rules-based order. It's not just focused on countering Chinese aggression. It is focused on other initiatives as well, including economic relations, collaboration in the field of science and technology, especially critical emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, then robotics, quantum computing, etc. Even vaccine development to deal with epidemics, pandemics. So all these areas have been identified as priority areas of cooperation between the Quad members. Then coming to the G4 group. You would have heard about the G4 in the context of UN reforms, which is frequently pushed by India. India is pushing for reforms of the United Nations, particularly for a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. India is backed by few other like-minded powers, which are also claiming a permanent seat at the UNSC, such as Japan, Germany, and Brazil. So these four countries are part of this informal group at the UN called the G4. They are primarily pushing for reforms of the United Nations, and they are claiming a permanent seat for themselves, as they believe that they have a legitimate claim to represent their region and to play a proactive role in global geopolitics through the United Nations. So these are some important initiatives that India, Japan are involved in. Let me also give you a few other important points related to India, Japan, which can potentially be turned into a prelims question. Japan has an assistance program called ODA, Official Development Assistance. Through this program, Japan has been providing concessional loans and investments to several developing countries, including India. India is one of the biggest beneficiaries of Japan's ODA program, and Japan's financial institutions, they have provided concessional loans at very reasonable interest rates with very flexible repayment periods, which has funded many key projects in India. For example, the Delhi Metro, Bengaluru Metro projects, the dedicated freight corridor, Western and Eastern dedicated freight corridor projects, even the upcoming bullet train project between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, and several developmental projects in Northeast India, in Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram. Several developmental initiatives, including rural development, road and bridge construction projects, they've all been funded by Japanese concessional loans under the ODA program of Japan. So there can be a prelims question asked over here. Then also note down that India, Japan have signed a civil nuclear deal for cooperation in the civilian nuclear domain. Now, this is a very big development because Japan is strongly committed to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Japan believes that no country should face the horrors of a nuclear war, as Japan is the only country which has suffered the consequences of a nuclear conflict when US dropped nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that brought the Second World War to an end. So since then, Japan has believed that nuclear weapons should not proliferate and spread. So usually it does not build good relations with those countries which don't sign non-proliferation treaty. This had been a standing issue between India and Japan, as India had committed that we will never sign the NPT. Yesterday, if you remember, I explained the NPT and I told you why India would never join the NPT. So India-Japan relations were affected by the fact that India would never sign NPT, but Japan had a strong commitment towards NPT. But following the improvement in relations between India and US, the US started favoring India's nuclear program and started lobbying on India's behalf to get global support so that India could enter these export control regimes that we studied yesterday. Plus, India-Japan relations became much better. As China became a common threat in the last 2 decades, India-Japan focused on defense and strategic relations. And as a result, a trust, a bond was built between the two countries. So eventually, Japan went on to recognize that India's nuclear program has been a clean program with no record of nuclear leakage or nuclear proliferation. And eventually, we signed a civil nuclear deal as well. So this can also come as a point in a prelims question. We also have a free trade agreement called the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. India-Japan have signed a free trade agreement. And also remember that we have a 2+2 ministerial dialogue. India-Japan have established a 2+2 ministerial dialogue. What is a 2+2 ministerial dialogue? It's a format of diplomatic negotiations involving the foreign minister and defense minister of both the countries. So essentially, India's foreign and defense ministers will simultaneously meet with the foreign and defense ministers of Japan. They will discuss all the mutual issues of concern with regard to geopolitics, security-related issues, etc. So India has a similar arrangement with few other countries as well. We have a 2+2 ministerial dialogue, even with United States, with Australia, with Russia. We held a 2+2 ministerial with Brazil as well. Then with United Kingdom at the secretary level, the defense and foreign secretaries of both the countries, of both India and UK, met recently. So we have 2+2 dialogues with these countries. Apart from UK, with all of them, it's a ministerial dialogue where the ministers meet. But with UK, it's at the secretary level, at the ministry level. So these are some important factual points that are needed for your prelims because India-Japan relations are frequently in news. Now let's look at question number 3. Operation Interflex, seen recently in news, refers to which of the given options? Read the options carefully. The poll will be launched very soon. Let's see how many of you can answer this. This question is slightly difficult because it wasn't prominently mentioned in every newspaper. But if you are reading current affairs regularly and thoroughly, right, this topic was in news, and according to me, this can be another important topic. So let's see how many of you can get this right. I'll give you a few seconds. All of you, please attempt the question. Use the live poll option. Let's see how many of you can answer this question. All right, let me give you the correct answer and let's see how many of them have answered correctly. Around 30%, just 30% of the students have given the right answer. Option A is the correct answer. It is a UK-led multinational effort to supply military aid and support to Ukraine. See, this topic was in the news in the context of Russia-Ukraine war. Ever since the conflict began, West European countries have been trying to extend support to Ukraine along with United States. US has provided tremendous financial aid worth billions of dollars. It has supplied weapons as well to strengthen the Ukrainian forces so that they can stand up against the Russian invasion. But United Kingdom launched a very different program under Operation Interflex. It's a military aid program worth around 2.3 billion pounds, where along with United Kingdom, few other European countries, they are providing military aid for Ukrainian armed forces. What kind of military aid? Essentially, it is training. They are not supplying weapons directly here under Operation Interflex. under Operation Interflex led by UK and other European countries, they are providing military training in strategies, military tactics, in combat techniques, and also in the laws related to warfare. So such training is being imparted to Ukrainian forces who are brought to the United Kingdom for training and then deployed in the war front to fight against Russia. So that is the kind of military assistance being provided under Operation Interflex. It's primarily a training program through which UK and few other European powers are providing military training to Ukrainian armed forces. Now let's look at question number 4. This question is very, very important. I feel this topic itself can definitely come as a question this time because there have been some very big developments related to it. The question is related to the ICC, not the one which regulates cricket, but I'm referring to International Criminal Court. Which of the following statements is not correct with reference to ICC? So there are 4 statements given. Let me know which of them is not correct. Read the question carefully, read the statements. It was established in 2002, pursuant to the Rome Statute of 1998. India is not a party to the Rome Statute. It investigates and tries individuals charged with genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the crimes of aggression. It can impose economic sanctions against countries involved in committing a genocide. So let me know which of them is not correct amongst the 4 given statements. Around 50% of the students have given the right answer. Very good. The correct answer here is option D. The International Criminal Court cannot impose economic sanctions against countries, even if they are involved in a genocide. The other 3 statements are absolutely correct. So let's discuss the topic in slight detail. As I told you, it's going to be very important because Russian President Putin has been issued an arrest warrant by the ICC. There were news reports last year that ICC has upheld the charges against Putin and some of his senior officials for being involved in war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Ukrainian conflict. Following this, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Putin. So essentially, if Russian President Putin were to travel to a country which is a party to the ICC, which is a member of ICC, Putin potentially faces arrest because it is legally mandated by the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute, which led to the establishment of the ICC. ICC was also in news with regard to the Gaza war. Recently, few Israeli officials have been accused of committing war crimes. They've been accused of committing a genocide against Palestinians in the ongoing Gaza conflict. There have been news reports in the last few weeks that few Israeli military officials and few government leaders might be issued an arrest warrant. And according to reports, it might be issued against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as well. It's unconfirmed as of now, but there have been few credible reports in the media. So over the last 1 year, ICC has been frequently in news. So let's understand the background with regard to ICC. Let's talk about its role, its mandate. Let's also understand the structure and composition, right? All these points will be very important and a related question can be asked by UPSC. So ICC is essentially an intergovernmental organization and a tribunal. It's an international tribunal which is seated at The Hague in Netherlands. Hague is considered as the judicial capital of the world because this is where many international tribunals and judicial bodies are located. For example, the International Court of Justice, which is a primary organ of the UN, the Permanent Court of Arbitration, the International Tribunal that deals with such criminal charges under the Rome Statute, which is ICC or International Criminal Court. They're all headquartered here at The Hague in Netherlands. So it was established in the year 2002 following the Rome Statute of 1998. More than 120 countries have signed and ratified the treaty, that is the Rome Statute, and they are members of the International Criminal Court. They have accepted the jurisdiction of the ICC. But there are 40 plus countries, including India, which are not members of ICC. Is that clear? India has neither signed the Rome Statute nor has India ratified the Rome Statute. There is a reason why India is not part of ICC. There is a reason why we chose not to sign and ratify the Rome Statute. Because India is facing a number of internal conflicts, be it the Naxal war in central and eastern parts of India, the insurgent movement by Naxals, be it Northeast insurgency or the Khalistan movement or militancy in Jammu and Kashmir. These internal conflicts, right, it pushes India to be involved in active conflict zones. And there could be a risk where platforms like ICC could be misused for geopolitical reasons by some of India's rivals and hostile states. They might target Indian leaders, Indian officials, and accuse them of war crimes or genocide or crimes against humanity. So this could weaken our fight against extremism. It could compromise India's sovereignty as well. So keeping these factors in mind, India has chosen to not sign and ratify the Rome Statute. So India is not a member of the International Criminal Court. In fact, there are several countries which have signed the Rome Statute, but they have not ratified it. There are few non-signatories as well. Right? For example, the US, it has signed the Rome Statute, but it has not ratified it. Same with Russia. It has signed the Rome Statute, but not ratified it. India is a non-signatory altogether. We have not signed it. Of course, there's no question of ratifying it. Now, let us talk about the mandate of ICC. What exactly does ICC do? Now, let's say in any conflict zone, if a government leader, it could be a prime minister of a nation, a dictator who's an authoritarian leader, or a president, or it could be defense minister, right, the cabinet ministers who are involved in taking key decisions, or it could be military officials, intelligence officers, police officers, paramilitary personnel. If such individuals are involved in certain crimes as recognized under the Rome Statute, then they will be liable for investigation and prosecution by the ICC. There are 4 specific crimes which are part of the Rome Statute. It includes genocide, which is a deliberate intent on the part of a state, on the part of a majority group, to target other groups, usually minority groups, on the lines of nationality, race, ethnicity, etc. For example, the genocide carried out by Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler against the Jews. Recently, we marked Holocaust Day, right? So such an act of targeting an entire group of people where there is state sanction to commit violence against an entire group of people because of their nationality or ethnicity or race, etc. Such an act is termed as a genocide. So there have been many instances of genocides in African countries, for example, right? So such crimes are prosecuted, investigated under the ICC. Then war crimes, crimes committed during war. If the laws of war as recognized under Geneva Conventions is violated by one of the combatant, one of the parties involved in the conflict, then charges of war crimes can be pressed. For example, torturing a prisoner of war, not treating prisoners of war with respect, not respecting their human rights, or carrying out attacks on civilian targets like schools, hospitals, etc. Crimes against humanity is also part of the mandate of ICC. This again involves torture, using murders and rapes as a weapon to terrorize the civilian population, deliberately using disproportionate force to target civilian facilities from houses to schools, hospitals, colleges, etc. If such civilian targets are attacked deliberately with disproportionate force, leading to large-scale human rights violations, it can be termed as crimes against humanity. Then even the crimes of aggression, when a country attacks another UN member state and violates its sovereignty and territorial integrity in violation of the UN Charter, right, then that is termed as crimes of aggression. That's exactly what Russia has done against Ukraine. Russia violated the territorial sovereignty of Ukraine and it breached the principles of the UN Charter. So such crimes can be brought up for investigation and prosecution, and it is individual leaders, officials who are brought up here and charges are brought up against them. So it's not the entire government, it's not the entire state or a country. It is specific leaders and individuals who give the orders to commit genocide, who tolerate genocide being committed, who allow war crimes to be committed, who allow crimes against humanity to be committed. So this institution has a very unique structure. It comprises of 18 judges. Please note down the facts, it's very important. It consists of 18 judges, one from each different member country. Out of all the member states which are part of ICC, from 18 countries, one judge is chosen through a system of elections. So elections are held within the ICC amongst the member states, and 18 judges are chosen, one from each member state, essentially. So basically, there can't be two judges from the same country. That's what it means. So out of the 18 countries which manage to secure the votes, right, they will nominate one judge who represents that particular country. The Rome Statute says that there should be gender balance in the judicial panel, meaning there should be adequate number of women judges as well, because women might be at the receiving end in a conflict where they might be disproportionately targeted. So the Rome Statute calls for gender balance on the judicial panel, and it also calls for equitable geographical representation. There are 5 geographical regions recognized by the UN when it comes to these global bodies and organizations like Asia Pacific, Latin America, Africa, etc. So from the 5 geographical regions, there should be equitable representation. And these judges will get a term of 9 years, which is not renewable. They're not eligible for re-elections. There will be a president who will be chosen amongst the 18 judges, and there will be 2 vice presidents who provide leadership to this esteemed judicial panel. So within the group of judges who are chosen, they will elect a president and 2 vice presidents. This is the structure and the composition. Now coming to the investigation and the process. Who can bring up the cases, the complaints? Who can invoke the provisions of Rome Statute and accuse the officials of other countries of committing these crimes? That's what we need to understand. There are 3 ways in which ICC will open an investigation. First option is one of the member countries can refer a situation within its own territory. Let's say there are few rogue outfits, extremist groups, or state-sanctioned extremist groups which are engaging in such crimes. One of the member states can refer the matter to the ICC for further investigation. Or let's say there is a war which has broken out and the hostile country is carrying out such crimes within the jurisdiction of a member state. So even then the member state can bring up the issue and press charges at the ICC against certain government leaders and officials responsible for these crimes. Then UN Security Council can also refer a situation from a region of concern. And finally, the ICC prosecutors, they can take up the cases suo motu on their own initiative based on reports, not just media reports, but UN reports and what other countries are stating about a conflict. If there are allegations of genocide, war crimes being committed, then the ICC prosecutors can press suo motu charges. They can bring up the charges on their own as well. These are the 3 ways in which ICC can pick up investigation. Now, when it comes to non-member states, what will happen to those countries which are involved in committing these crimes? And if they are not a member of ICC, if they are not signed and ratified the Rome Statute, even then there is a provision. There are 3 ways in which even non-member states can be brought up for charges and prosecution at the ICC. For example, let's say the offences have been committed by a non-member state within the territory of a member state. Hypothetically, let's say there are 2 countries, country A, country B. Let's say country A is a member of ICC, country B is not a member. Now, country B has attacked country A and its military officials are involved in committing war crimes against the people of country A within its territory. So this member country which is suffering these war crimes can refer the matter and ICC can pick up those charges and it can investigate the officials of the other country. Next, if the non-member state accepts the jurisdiction of ICC, this is unlikely to happen, right? Because if a country has not signed and ratified the Rome Statute, it clearly shows an intent that they don't want to be under ICC's jurisdiction. But this option is available. A non-member state can temporarily accept the jurisdiction of ICC if the charges have to be investigated, and then those cases can be taken up. And finally, based on UNSC's authorization, UN Security Council can authorize the investigation of these charges, right? Even in a non-member state. So please be aware of this. It's very, very important, because in the recent ongoing conflicts, these questions of legal nature have come up. Russia stands accused of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. Russia says that it's not an ICC member, so it's not liable for ICC jurisdiction. But other countries have referred the matter. Ukraine, which is also not a party to the Rome Statute, has shown interest to join ICC by signing and ratifying the Rome Statute. Other countries, the members of ICC, they have filed charges against Russian officials. That is why Putin was prosecuted, and an arrest warrant has been issued against Putin and several top officials of the Russian government and Russian armed forces. Same question comes up with Israel. Israel has been accused by some of the member states of using disproportionate force against Palestinian civilians. In fact, Palestine, even though it's not a sovereign country, the Palestinian territories have been accepted as a member state in 2015. It's a very important point. So Palestine is a member state to the ICC, and charges of genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity have been pressed against Israeli officials and Israeli leaders. Israel rejects the ICC jurisdiction because even Israel is not part of ICC. Israel is not a member of the ICC. But still, ICC can issue arrest warrants, and as per media reports, it might issue these warrants in the coming days against few Israeli leaders and military officials. So this is what we understand from this important topic. I definitely expect a question based on either the Rome Statute or the International Criminal Court. Now let's look at question number 5. Read the question. It's a very simple, straightforward question. The topic was in news last year. The recently inaugurated India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline supplies natural gas, crude oil, high-speed diesel or drinking water. Let's see how many of you can answer this question. Take a few seconds. It's a simple, straightforward question. Let me see if you can give me the right answer. The India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline, what does it transport? More than 60% are saying option A. Majority of you are wrong. That's the incorrect answer. Option A is the incorrect answer. The correct answer is option C. See, you might have heard about India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline, right? But did you ever think, what does it really supply from India to Bangladesh? The pipeline connects which regions in India and Bangladesh? That is where UPSC might ask a question, right? This pipeline is meant to transport high-speed diesel from an oil refinery in India to Bangladesh. Please look at the map that has been shared over here. Can you see the Numaligarh Petroleum Refinery, which is located in the state of Assam? It's operated by Oil India Limited, which is a public sector organization. So from here, petrochemical products have been supplied to Bangladesh from many years. But for the first time, we have built a pipeline connecting Siliguri corridor, which is India's strategic choke point, which is the chicken's neck of India. From here, a 130-kilometer pipeline has been built to connect with Bangladesh at Parbatipur. The distance is around 132 kilometers. Just 5 kilometers of it lies on the Indian side. Majority of the pipeline is on the Bangladeshi side. So from Numaligarh refinery in Assam, we already had a pipeline that brings petroleum products and high-speed diesel till Siliguri. So from Siliguri, this friendship pipeline, India-Bangladesh friendship pipeline, has been built, and it was inaugurated last year by Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So essentially, it provides high-speed diesel, which is very necessary for goods vehicles, right? Trucks, for example, agricultural activities. It will improve the energy partnership between India and Bangladesh, and in a way, India is guaranteeing the energy security of Bangladesh. So it is a very important topic, and please note down these basic points. Let's look at question number 6. The question says, UN Security Council Resolution number 2396, which is seen often in news, is related to what? Is it related to combating climate change, countering the threat posed by foreign terrorist fighters, enhancing cybersecurity awareness, tackling extreme hunger created by war and conflict? Think carefully and then give the answer. This topic again was in the news last year. So let's see how many of you can answer this correctly. Around 40% of the students are giving the right answer. The correct answer is option B, UNSC Resolution 2396. It basically deals with countering the threat posed by FTTs. It's a term designated by the UN Security Council, which stands for Foreign Terrorist Fighters. Now, who are designated as foreign terrorist fighters? That's what you need to understand. In what context was the topic in news? See, recently, few global terrorist organizations like Islamic State or ISIS or Daesh and even Al-Qaeda, they managed to get a number of global recruits from countries around the world. They managed to spread their radical ideology primarily through the internet. Especially ISIS was very successful in radicalizing and brainwashing the youth around the world. And several youth from several countries, they got self-indoctrinated on the internet. They fell for the radical ideology of Islamic State. They even traveled to Iraq, Syria, and even Afghanistan to join the Islamic State and fight for Islamic State. These terrorists who are traveling to foreign countries to join a terrorist organization, who are fighting for foreign terrorist outfits, and then returning back to the home country, they are designated as FTTs. For example, even few Indian youth, right? They got self-indoctrinated by ISIS ideology on the internet through social media platforms. They went to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria to fight for ISIS. Some of them lost their lives and some of them came back to India. So these returned terrorists still pose a threat. They could still carry out terror attacks after returning back to their home country. So to disrupt their terrorist activities, the United Nations Security Council adopted resolution number 2396. It calls upon all the UN member states to work collectively to strengthen border control so that you prevent such radicalized elements from leaving the country in the first place before they go and join these terror groups in other countries. If you have better border control mechanisms, you can detect such elements and prevent them from traveling. It requires the UN member states to cooperate with each other when it comes to criminal justice, sharing information and intelligence, and to counter extremism. So if countries collaborate and work together, they can share intelligence with each other, identify such suspects, prevent them from traveling in the first place, and if they are returning back to the home country, they can keep an eye on them, or they can press charges against them, prosecute them. So ensure that such foreign returned terrorists don't pose a threat. So that was the goal, the objective of UNSC Resolution 2396. Now, why was this in news and how is it related to India? Last year, the US Bureau of Counterterrorism brought out a report on the trends in global terrorism. The report was based on 2021 data and it praised India's efforts in upholding the objectives of UNSC Resolution 2396. This resolution was adopted by UN Security Council in 2017, and over the next 3 to 4 years, India had abided by the provisions of this resolution. We had improved our border controls. We improved our surveillance on social media platforms. We prevented several Indian youth from traveling to these countries and joining these terrorist groups. We worked with other foreign partners, shared information and intelligence to counter extremism and to ensure that justice was delivered and terrorism was curbed. So these efforts of India was appreciated by the US Bureau of Counterterrorism in its report that was published last year. So that is why the topic becomes important. There can be a question related to this UNSC resolution. Now let's move on to question number 7. Let's take a look at question number 7. Let's see how many of you can answer this question. There are 4 statements provided. Please read it carefully. It's related to something called the Windsor Framework Agreement. There are 4 statements given. You can go through them, take some time and try to give the right answer. It's another important topic. I will give you the entire explanation. The Windsor Framework is a post-Brexit legal agreement between UK and Republic of Ireland. That is statement number 1. Its provisions primarily apply for goods headed to Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. It replaced the Northern Ireland Protocol. It introduced a green lane and red lane system for goods that will stay in Northern Ireland and goods that will go to EU respectively. What is the correct answer? How many of these statements are correct? 51%, almost 50% are saying option D is the right answer. D is the wrong answer. D is not correct. Read it carefully. Tina Sharma has identified the key point in the first statement. The first statement is wrong. The first statement is incorrect. Windsor Framework was signed between UK and European Union. These were the signatories to the deal, the post-Brexit deal. It wasn't signed with Republic of Ireland. It was signed between the government of United Kingdom and the European Union. Is that clear? The other 3 statements are correct. Its provisions primarily apply for the goods headed to Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. This is a correct statement. I'll explain how. It replaced the Northern Ireland Protocol. This is also correct. Statement 4 is also correct. So what's the right answer? Only 3 statements. Option C is the correct answer. Now, let's understand this topic in slight detail. I hope all of you have heard about Brexit. That is Britain's exit from European Union. In 2016, Britain held a referendum giving the choice to its people, to its citizens, to decide whether Britain should leave or stay with European Union. Majority of the people, especially from England and Wales, they voted to exit the European Union. Because UK and European Union, they have had long-standing issues between them. So it became a major political issue in Britain or United Kingdom, and around 52% of British citizens, they voted for exiting the EU. So as Britain was exiting EU, there was a need for a post-Brexit deal which would define the trade relations between UK, which was now leaving the European Union, and the other European Union countries. Because I hope you know that EU is not just a political regional organization, but it's a very important economic union. It has established a free trade area, created a common customs union and a monetary union. Several EU members have adopted euro as their common currency. They have abolished border controls. EU members have no border controls under the Schengen Agreement. They have created the Schengen zone that provides for free movement of people. They have abolished the tariffs, the duties, the border security checks to allow the free movement of goods, services, and as well as investments. So now if UK is quitting the EU, it should no longer be eligible for these benefits, these trade benefits. So to determine the relationship, the trade relationship between UK and EU, there was a need for a post-Brexit deal. Is that clear? So that is one point. Next, you should also understand the geography of the region and the brief history of the region as well. Now you're looking at the map of United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland. There are 2 countries that can be seen over here. You have UK, or also called Britain, and you have Republic of Ireland. Let me mark the countries very clearly because the geography of the region plays an important role in understanding the topic. So this region which I am marking in blue color, this would be Republic of Ireland, which is a separate sovereign nation. and Republic of Ireland is a member of European Union. It's a separate sovereign country and a member of the EU. Now, if you look at UK, I'll use a different color to mark UK. Let's say I'll use the purple color here. So this jurisdiction roughly which I'm drawing here, right, including this part of Ireland, this part of Irish territory, and this entire region of Great Britain. This is the jurisdiction or the territorial extent of United Kingdom. UK is made up of 4 different territories. You have England over here, Wales over here, Scotland over here, and Northern Ireland over here. So part of the Irish territory towards the north belongs to United Kingdom. These 4 territories come together to form the sovereign nation of Britain or UK. Is that clear? Now, see, people of the Irish territories, they've always felt that both the Irish territories should be united. In fact, the Irish groups in Northern Ireland, they have even fought an insurgent war against United Kingdom back in 1960s, 1970s. Over the last 40-50 years, UK has faced Irish insurgency in Northern Ireland, where they have tried to liberate the area to unite the region back with Republic of Ireland. So the region has seen a brutal conflict, a brutal insurgent militant movement over the decades, and this militancy was brought to an end with the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in the late 1990s. In 1998, Good Friday Agreement was signed between the Irish extremists and the UK government. And UK promised through the Good Friday Agreement that if Irish insurgency is brought to an end, then open borders will be maintained between Northern Ireland over here, this border essentially, and the Republic of Ireland, so that Irish people can freely move around the 2 regions, the 2 Irish territories. And even the goods can freely move around the 2 Irish territories. Irrespective of whether UK will be part of EU or not, this was supposed to be a free and open border so that Irish people from Northern Ireland can move to Republic of Ireland. Goods can also freely flow between the 2 Irish territories. This is how peace was secured through the Good Friday Agreement. But now if Britain was quitting the EU, the question was what would happen to this border? It remained a free and open border, so now the concern was, would hard border controls be established? Would security checks be implemented? Would immigration checks be implemented? Would the goods be checked and taxes be levied on them if they are moving between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland? The problem here would be, once UK quits the EU, it can no longer enjoy the trade benefits of being a member of the EU. But Republic of Ireland would remain a territory of the European Union. So if goods are entering from UK to Republic of Ireland directly, without any security checks, without any taxes being levied on them, that would violate the very free trade arrangement of the European Union, because UK was exiting. It was no longer a part of European Union. Now the question was, after Brexit, after UK exits EU, what will happen to the border controls over here? If UK tried bringing back hard border controls, then it could lead to resurgence of Irish nationalist sentiments. It could possibly revive Irish insurgency as well. So those concerns were also there. That is why there was a need for a post-Brexit deal to work out these arrangements. And an agreement called Northern Ireland Protocol was worked out initially. Under Northern Ireland Protocol, the arrangement was that all the goods headed from Great Britain, which includes England, Scotland and Wales, these goods, if they are moving towards the Irish region, be it Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, all the goods were subjected to a check. Can you see this line over here, which I'm drawing in green? Any good or any commodity which is being sent from England or Scotland or Wales, be it towards Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, they would all be subjected to a security check. Only those goods headed to Northern Ireland would freely move into Northern Ireland because it's part of UK itself. But if there are goods detected which are heading to Republic of Ireland, which could cross this border here, they would be taxed. They were supposed to be taxed. But however, this trade measure, trade barrier which came up, created problems. See, Northern Ireland is part of UK itself. So because of this trade barrier, the security checks and levying of customs and duties, it created a barrier for trade internally within the UK. There were shortage of goods in Northern Ireland. The supplies from England, Scotland, Wales towards Northern Ireland was getting disrupted because of the security checks and the border controls that were being implemented. So that is why there was a need to simplify this further and bring a new deal which could replace the Northern Ireland Protocol. So Northern Ireland Protocol has now been replaced by the Windsor Framework. It was signed last year between United Kingdom and European Union, and essentially it governs how the goods will move from UK, from Great Britain, that is England, Scotland and Wales, towards Northern Ireland and also Republic of Ireland, which remains a EU member. So to simplify the movement of goods, two separate channels have been created, a green channel that you see over here and a red channel. These are the two separate channels created. You can see the green channel over here and a separate red channel. Now let's say goods are being sent from Scotland, England, Wales towards Northern Ireland, which is all part of UK itself. Those goods will pass through green channel, meaning no border controls, no checks, no taxes, because it's part of one same country, one same jurisdiction. Those goods which are headed only towards Republic of Ireland, let's say goods from England, Scotland, Wales, if they are moving towards Republic of Ireland here, which is a EU member, only they will pass through the red channel where border checks will be implemented. These goods will be checked, taxes, duties levied on them. So that is the simplified arrangement created through Windsor Framework, which has replaced the Northern Ireland Protocol. So now I hope the topic is clear. It is slightly complicated, but if you understand the geography, the brief history here, you will be able to answer any question on this. So the topic was very much in news. There are Indian interests involved here because UK, Republic of Ireland, both the countries are major trading partners for India. We have a sizable Indian diaspora community in both the countries. There are Indian companies invested in both the countries. So these developments have a direct impact on India's foreign trade. That is why the topic becomes very, very important. So statement 1 is wrong. The rest of the 3 statements are correct. So option C is the correct answer. Now let's look at question number 8. This question is related to India's relations with Bhutan. It's from India's neighborhood. India-Bhutan relations were frequently in the news over the last few months, and I expect a question to be asked from here. There are 3 statements given. Please read them carefully. First, I'll set the context when you're reading the question, when you're trying to answer, and then we will take a look at the question itself. See, India-Bhutan relations have been in the news because last year, the monarch, the king of Bhutan, visited India. Several important agreements were signed. And also recently, after the elections in Bhutan, which was held in Jan 2024, Bhutan's Prime Minister visited India. And following that, Prime Minister Modi visited Bhutan as well, just few weeks ago, couple of months ago, before the election season began in India. During these high-level visits, some important initiatives have been launched, important agreements have been signed, and based on them, a prelims question can be asked by UPSC. Statement 1 says, recently Bhutan has proposed the Gelephu Smart City project as an economic corridor connecting South Asia with Southeast Asia via India's northeastern states. India perceives the project as a threat to its interests in the northeast. India has proposed a railway link between Gelephu and Kokrajhar in Assam. How many of the statements are correct? The poll is live. Let's see how many of you can answer this. More than 60% of the students, almost 65%, have given the right answer. Very good. Only 2 statements are correct. Statement 1 is correct. Statement 2 is incorrect. Statement 3 is absolutely correct. India does not perceive the Gelephu Smart City project as a threat. Rather, we see this as an opportunity for India-Bhutan to collaborate, work together, and establish a corridor that would link South Asia with Southeast Asia via the northeastern states. So let's understand what this project is all about. Let's talk about the railway projects as well that will link India and Bhutan. These are very big developments. Recently, Bhutan has announced a very important economic initiative. Bhutan is looking to set up a sustainable smart city called Gelephu, very close to the borders with India. Right across the border from Assam, Bhutan has proposed a modern city over here called Gelephu, which would be set up as a special economic zone or as a special administrative region. Bhutan's ambition is to develop this city as a major industrial hub. Now, some of you might ask, how come Bhutan is focusing on industrialization? Because Bhutan has a strong commitment for sustainability, for tackling pollution, tackling emissions. Right? You would have heard about Bhutan's Gross National Happiness Index, how Bhutan prioritizes spirituality, environmental well-being, protection of biodiversity when it comes to industrial exploitation or large-scale pollution and exploitation of resources. Bhutan is one unique country which follows this unique economic model. It does not believe that its pristine environment has to be destroyed for the sake of industrial development. Now, how can such a country plan a massive industrial project? Please understand the proposed Gelephu industrial project. It will focus only on non-polluting industries. It's a sustainable city that will focus on service-based industries, which are non-polluting in nature. It will not create large factories. It will not contribute to emissions. Rather, it will provide priority for service-based industries that can create an economic hub in this region. And Bhutan is depending on India for assistance and support to ensure the success of the project. So India sees this as a great opportunity to link northeastern states with Bhutan with better infrastructure and further connect the northeastern states with Southeast Asian markets. This could drive better development in Northeast region as well. So India has proposed a couple of railway projects and both the countries signed agreements to start these railway links. The first major railway link which is coming up between the two countries, it will connect Gelephu, the proposed smart city, with Kokrajhar in Assam. This will be the first cross-border railway link between India and Bhutan. There is another railway project which has been proposed and the project has been taken up by the two countries. It is the Banarhat-Samtse railway line over here from West Bengal to this border location in Bhutan. There are a few other proposed projects as well. You can see the names over here in the map. But as of now, India-Bhutan have not finalized these projects yet. But the other two railway projects which I mentioned, that is Gelephu-Kokrajhar and Banarhat-Samtse, these two railway projects have been approved and they have signed a final agreement to start the construction of these projects. It would be entirely funded by India. Even India will construct and execute the project. India will also build an international airport at Gelephu to help drive this project of Bhutan. So India sees this as a great opportunity. Is that clear? So based on this, now I think you can easily give the right answer. Now there's another important point. See, India's ambition is to not just connect India and Bhutan through these railway projects, but we want to link Northeast India further with Southeast Asian markets. India is also setting up land post or land border checkpost facilities with Bhutan to improve the movement of goods and people. We are also establishing better road connectivity with Bhutan. So now our ambition is to link these projects that connect India-Bhutan with other projects linking India with Southeast Asia. For example, we have the IMT Trilateral Highway Project, India, Myanmar, Thailand Trilateral Highway. You might have heard about this project. It was proposed under the Look East policy of India many years ago. And it has been actively taken up under the Act East policy launched by the Modi government. So India is building a trilateral highway with Myanmar and Thailand to connect important trading towns that could link South Asia with Southeast Asia. This highway, which is undergoing construction, which is nearing completion, connects the border town of Moreh in Manipur with Mandalay and Yangon in Myanmar and links with Mesot in Thailand. Remember the places as well. There can be a map-based question. So if India-Bhutan work together on Gelephu Smart City project, and if India-Bhutan have better connectivity, we can link those corridors, these economic corridors, with the northeastern markets and further connect them with Southeast Asian markets in Myanmar, Thailand, and the rest of the region. So that explains why India sees this project as an opportunity. Is that clear? Now let's move on to question number 9. The question is related to the land ports of India, which are officially called ICPs or integrated check posts. Now let's see how many of you can answer this question. Please read the question. India currently has operational ICPs or integrated check posts with which of the following neighboring countries? Options are Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar. With how many of these neighboring countries do we have integrated check posts which are functioning, which are operational? Please think and then give the answer. I'll explain the importance of ICPs. It is an important part of international relations, especially our neighborhood policy. So let's see how many of you can get this right. Look at the options provided. Think with which of these countries India has established ICPs which are functioning, which are operational. Almost 50% are saying option C is correct. That's not the right answer. The correct answer would be option B. We have an operational ICP with Pakistan. Trade might have been suspended, but the ICP is operational. We have ICPs with Nepal, which are functioning. We have these land ports with Bangladesh and with Myanmar. But with Bhutan, as of now, we don't have a functional integrated check post. Is that clear? So correct answer would be 1, 2, 4, and 5. Now let's quickly understand what are ICPs. What are these land ports? See, when two countries share land borders, it's very important to have these land port facilities, just like you have an airport or a seaport, which will serve as a port of entry. It will help in the movement of people and goods that can improve trade. It can improve the people-to-people cultural relations and does improve overall relations between two neighboring countries. So to facilitate the movement of people and goods across the land border, you need these check posts or land ports. And in the case of India, it is managed by the Land Ports Authority of India. Land Ports Authority of India is functioning under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Under the Department of Border Management, the MHA has established the Land Ports Authority of India, which is a statutory body. Is that clear? It has legal backing, it has statutory backing. It is responsible for establishing and maintaining and operating these land port facilities called ICPs, integrated check posts. Basically, these ICPs will have all the modern facilities. All the entities, stakeholders involved in cross-border trade, they will all be present in one single place, in one single terminal, so that they can quickly provide for the movement of people and goods. From security officials and security forces to custom officials, from immigration officials to all the concerned authorities, they will all be present in one single facility at the check post so that they can quickly process the goods and the people. They can quickly verify the documents, conduct the security checks, levy the taxes and duties, and facilitate the quick movement, efficient and systematic movement of cargo and as well as people. This will promote border trade. It will benefit both economies. It will improve tourism as well. It can promote cultural ties and people-to-people relations. So India has established many such ICPs, and there are many more proposed as well. In 2018, the Cabinet Committee on Security has approved 13 new ICPs to be established. But as of now, we have functional ICPs with Pakistan. You can see over here in the state of Punjab. we have functional ICPs with Nepal, functional ICPs with Bangladesh and Myanmar. But with Bhutan, there is a proposal. Recently it has been approved, the project has started, but it is not functional yet. We do have trade between the two countries, but we don't have an integrated check post which is functioning as of now. So if you look at data on the website of Land Ports Authority of India, there are 11 operational land ports or ICPs. According to the Press Information Bureau, in 2022, there were 9 ICPs which were operational. Recently, 2 more ICPs have been made operational, which takes the total to 11. So please note down the location of these integrated checkposts, which states they are located in, and along which border. Based on this, there can be a prelims question. For example, the Atari checkpost, the Wagah Atari checkpost in Punjab, along with the Pakistan border. The Petropol ICP in West Bengal, along the Bangladesh border. Petropol ICP is considered as one of the largest land port facilities in entire Asia. So like this, we have ICPs with Nepal and Myanmar as well. Is that clear? So please note down these names. So these are the new proposed integrated checkposts. For example, the Kartarpur corridor was established with Pakistan at Dera Baba Nanak to facilitate the movement of Sikh pilgrims to visit Kartarpur Gurudwara in Pakistan, right? To pay their respects at Dera Baba Nanak from Gurdaspur district of India. A 6-kilometer visa-free corridor has been created for the movement of people, which is also a land port, an ICP. So these are some of the upcoming projects. These are the states where it will be located. These are the countries which will benefit from these border trading facilities. So please make a note of these places, these locations. Be familiar with exactly which border is it coming up, which state is it located in. So there can be, let's say, match the following type of question. UPSC might give 3 or 4 ICPs, asking you to match them with the states or the countries which it is meant to serve, right? So this is one way of India promoting border trade across land borders with our neighboring countries. Now let's move on to question number 10. Consider the following statements. There are 3 statements given. Read the statements carefully. Very straightforward question. Again, if you have read the topic, if you have been in touch with current affairs, you can answer this. If not, then it might become a difficult question. If you haven't read the topic, if you're not able to recollect, if you haven't revised, then the question might become difficult. So read the statements. India, Iran, Armenia held a trilateral meeting in 2023. It gives a platform to revitalize the proposed INSTC project. It is seen as a counter to Pakistan, Azerbaijan, Turkey trilateral. How many of the statements are correct? Take a few seconds and then give me the right answer. More than 50% are saying option C is correct. All 3 statements are correct. You're absolutely right. All the 3 given statements are correct. So let's understand this development in slight detail. See, India, Iran and Armenia, they held a trilateral meeting last year. They held a trilateral meeting in 2023. They discussed areas of cooperation between them. And the most important issue discussed was the revival of a project called INSTC. INSTC stands for International North-South Transport Corridor. It's one of the most ambitious connectivity projects that was proposed in the 1990s, involving India, Russia, Iran, and Azerbaijan. Please look at the map that I've shared over here. The primary objective behind INSTC project was to create a shorter route, a more efficient route to connect India and Russia and India and Europe. Even yesterday, we studied the traditional shipping route between India and Europe, which passes through Arabian Sea, Gulf of Aden, and Bab el-Mandeb, Red Sea, Suez Canal, and then reaches Mediterranean, and then crosses the Atlantic to reach Europe. This traditional shipping route between India and Europe is a longer route, it's a circuitous route. There are many vulnerabilities present as well here. For example, as we studied yesterday, Suez Canal can be blocked. Red Sea can face a crisis, as we have witnessed during the Houthi attacks against commercial ships. Piracy near Horn of Africa can be a risk. So there are many risk factors which can disturb shipping through the Red Sea route, through the traditional shipping route between India and Europe. So one alternate route which has been considered is the INSTC route, the North-South Transport Corridor. The idea is to set up a maritime link between India's west coast and Iranian ports like Bandar Abbas and also the Chabahar port in Iran, which has been built by India. India funded the Chabahar port project. One of the terminals is operated by an Indian company even today. So our goal was to link with these Iranian ports near the Strait of Hormuz, which is another strategic choke point, and transport the goods to this water body, which is the Caspian Sea. In the Caspian Sea, inland navigation has been developed by Azerbaijan. So through inland navigation route, via Azerbaijan's territory, the goods can be transported via Caspian Sea to Russia. But this proposed project never really took off because of various complications. Russia, Iran, both of them have been constantly facing economic sanctions by Western countries. There have been some conflicts going on in the region as well. India's ties with Iran has been compromised because India followed the American sanctions against Iran, which affected India-Iran relations a few years ago. Plus, Russia got involved with the dispute and conflict with Ukraine, which has aggravated the situation, and essentially the project got derailed. So now Armenia has proposed an alternative. Armenia, which is one of the countries present in this region, has brought India, Iran together and proposed an alternate route to realize the INSTC project. So let's understand the dynamics here. You might have heard about a conflict called Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. This region is disputed between Armenia and Azerbaijan, right? Historically, both were part of Soviet Union during the Cold War period. Later, after Soviet Union disintegrated, Armenia, Azerbaijan were born, and both of them were claiming Nagorno-Karabakh. And recently, they fought a war as well. Over the last 30 years, there has been a dispute and conflict going on, and in the last 2-3 years, the conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh escalated between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, Azerbaijan last year launched a major military offensive. It has captured Nagorno-Karabakh and it has thrown out the native Armenians. Now, this conflict is of interest for India because India has been involved in the conflict in some manner or the other. Azerbaijan received a lot of support from regional powers like Turkey. Turkey stood with Azerbaijan, supported Azerbaijan in the conflict. Russia, which was supposed to be neutral, failed to protect Armenia's interests, and Azerbaijan has grown closer to Pakistan as well in the recent years. So we have seen the emergence of a nexus between Pakistan, Azerbaijan and Turkey. And these countries have been targeting India at platforms like United Nations and Organization of Islamic Cooperation. For example, over internal issues like the Kashmir issue. Right? Whenever Pakistan brings up the Kashmir issue or other internal issues like Citizenship Amendment Act or issues related to Article 370, on all these sensitive internal matters of India, Turkey has joined Pakistan, supported Pakistan, and Azerbaijan as well has stood with Pakistan and voted against India. So this has affected India's ties with Azerbaijan, and as a result, INSTC project could not be taken forward. First of all, there were sanctions on Russia and Iran. India's ties with Iran was also affected to an extent. Plus, Azerbaijan turning hostile against India and favoring Pakistan created more complications. So in this conflict, India has supported Armenia. If not directly over the Nagorno-Karabakh issue, we have provided at least defense support. India has become a major military supplier. We have supplied advanced weapons to Armenia, including radars and missiles, the Akash missile system, for example. and few advanced radars have been supplied by India, and the military relations have really grown between India and Armenia. So now Armenia is in a right position geographically to offer an alternate route for INSTC project to be realized. See, of late, India has repaired its relations with Iran. India-Iran relations have become slightly better. So Armenia has proposed an idea that the INSTC project can be rerouted. Instead of routing it through Caspian Sea and Azerbaijan's territory, it can be routed through Armenia. You can see here, Iran and Armenia share a border, and the corridor can be routed into Georgia and then into Russia. So that is why the topic was in news. It made global headlines when India, Iran, Armenia held a trilateral meeting. This is seen as a counter to similar trilateral engagement between Pakistan, Turkey and Azerbaijan. So it's a very interesting development and can be very important for the upcoming exam. Let's look at question number 11. Consider the following statements. It's a very straightforward question, very factual. The topic was in news. It's related to the UN Statistical Commission. Please go through the statements. Let's see how many of you can answer this. UPSC tends to pick up such offbeat topics which have been in the news in the context of India and India's interests, and it might ask very vague factual questions as well on some organizations and these international bodies. So that's why I feel the topic is relevant, because there was something related to India and the UN Statistical Commission that was reported in the news last year. 60% of the students are saying option C. Okay, let's check the statements. UN Statistical Commission, the highest body of global statistical system, was established in 1946. The statement is correct. It's a factual statement. It functions under the UN Secretariat. The statement is wrong. The statement is incorrect. It functions under the ECOSOC, the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. It's one of the primary organs of the UN. Just like UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, International Court of Justice, UN Secretariat. One of the principal organs of the UN is ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council. So UN Statistical Commission functions under ECOSOC, not under UN Secretariat. So statement 2 is incorrect. India has been elected as a member for a 4-year term beginning from January 1st, 2024. The statement is correct. That is why the topic was in news. Last year, elections were held. India got elected as a member for 4-year term, which starts from 1st January 2024. So the correct answer would be option B. Only 2 statements are correct. A few more important facts about the UN Statistical Commission. This is considered as the highest global body to set standards for accounting and statistics. It was established in 1946, functions under UN Economic and Social Council, and it brings all the national statistics organizations and the chief statisticians of all the countries, of all the UN member states together, and it lays down the standards for statistics and accounting. Is that clear? So from India, the National Statistics Office, the Comptroller and Auditor General, they work with UN Statistical Commission to lay down the accounting and statistical standards. Is that clear? Even the Indian Institute of Statistics, the Indian Statistical Institute, right? They all collaborate with this UN platform. So please make a note of this institution and the basic facts related to it. There can be a direct factual question. Even though the topic is easy, it might become tricky and moderately difficult if you don't know the facts. Please note down the composition as well. 24 member countries are elected based on a geographical quota. For different regions, there are a few seats assigned and elections are held amongst the UN member states. So India got elected last year, and this is after 20 years that India is entering the UN Statistical Commission as a member. Back in 2004 as well, India had been elected as a member of the UN Statistical Commission. So now 20 years later, we have been elected again, and India is going to serve a 4-year term. So let's look at question number 12. Please read the question. It's related to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The question says, Which major European nation recently joined the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP? Is it Germany, France, United Kingdom, or Italy? It's a straightforward question. Either you know it or you don't know it. So give me a quick answer and then I'll give you the correct answer and we can discuss the topic as well. 40% are saying United Kingdom. Very good. These students are absolutely correct. Option C is the right answer. United Kingdom became the first European country to join this trade agreement called Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's also the first country to join TPP since its inception. So let's understand what is TPP, what is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So it is essentially a free trade area amongst the Pacific Rim countries. Some of the littorals of the Pacific, the rim countries of the Pacific have come together from Southeast Asia, from East Asia, Oceania, North America and South America. They have come together to form this trade agreement called Trans-Pacific Partnership, or Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. So this was signed and established in the year 2018. The idea was proposed in 2005 itself. After many rounds of talks and negotiations, the United States, which was also supposed to be a part of it, quit the Trans-Pacific Partnership in 2018. When Donald Trump was the president of the US, he rejected such multilateral trade agreements and he made US quit the TPP. So after US exited the TPP, it had lost its prominence. But the remaining members who were part of the negotiations, they went ahead, signed the trade deal and established the CPTPP in 2018. So there were 11 members who established this trade agreement that included Canada from North America, Mexico as well, then Peru and Chile from South America, Australia, New Zealand and Japan from the East Asia, Oceania region, and Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei. These 11 countries established the TPP in 2018. So after that, UK has become the 12th member. So it's the first country to join TPP after its inception and also the first European country. There are many others who have applied as well, who are showing interest, like Ukraine, China and Taiwan, even Costa Rica, Ecuador and Uruguay. This trade deal is often seen as a rival to the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is led by China and includes few common member countries. Interestingly, India was supposed to be a part of RCEP. We were part of the talks and negotiations, but in 2019, the Modi government decided to quit RCEP before it was signed, as Indian interests were not being protected. India felt the trade deal would harm our domestic industries, our farmers, that it would create an import dependency on India, cheap imports would flood the Indian market. So India decided to protect the domestic industries and the farmers and producers, and we quit RCEP negotiations. Since then, other RCEP members have signed and established the free trade area, which is led by China. So there is often a rivalry between RCEP and TPP. What's interesting is that there are few common members. So please find out, this is an exercise for you, it's an assignment for you. Find out the common members of RCEP and TPP, which are present in both, and mention that in the comment section after the live stream ends. Let's look at question number 13. Read the question. Which country was alleged, or which countries were alleged to have used thermobaric bombs in recent conflicts? It was another breaking development in the recent months. The alleged usage of thermobaric bombs by a certain country or by a few countries. It was repeatedly in news. So, was the allegation against Russia or Myanmar or Israel, or was it against all of them? Let's see how many of you can answer this. Then I'll explain what thermobaric bombs are. It's a very important topic. We'll look at the legality of the usage of these bombs as well. More than 30%, almost 36% are saying 3 only, Israel. Now, many students are opting for option A, saying it's Russia. Let me give you the correct answer. The correct answer is option D. Russia, Myanmar, Israel, all the three countries have allegedly used thermobaric bombs in the ongoing conflicts. Russia allegedly has used it in Ukraine, obviously. Israel allegedly has used it in Gaza. And Myanmar allegedly has used it in its own territory, targeting its own civilians. So let's understand what are thermobaric bombs. It's a very important concept. Thermobaric bombs are also known as vacuum bombs or aerosol bombs. It's also called as a fuel air explosive. Basically, in a thermobaric bomb, there are two types of explosive charges. It can be deployed through rockets, through grenades, or even through, let's say, bombs that are airdropped through bomber planes and fighter jets. So it can be very versatile. It can be loaded onto different types of delivery systems and delivered to the target. Now, such a bomb, which is called a vacuum bomb, right, or a thermobaric bomb, it consists of two explosive charges. The first explosive charge, it detonates on impact. Now, let's say a thermobaric bomb has been fired in the form of a rocket or a missile at a certain target, let's say a building. All right. So upon impact, the first explosive charge gets triggered, which releases an explosive substance into the air. The aerosols of a highly flammable chemical is released into the air that creates a cloud in the nearby region. It spreads in the air. So let's say it's a building, right? Those toxic fumes, the highly flammable aerosols will spread throughout the building, into the nooks and corners of the building, in the streets, or let's say a cave or a mountain area is being targeted. All the hidden areas, the hidden structures, in all these places which are hard to reach, right? In all these areas, the flammable aerosols will spread. And then the second charge will detonate, the second explosive charge. This will basically set fire to the flammable material which was already dispersed in the area. The entire cloud of aerosols will catch immediate fire, creating a massive fireball which will explode with great intensity, and it will create a pressure wave. This pressure wave will destroy, flatten the structures. It will kill everyone in the vicinity, and it sucks out the oxygen as well, creating a vacuum. That is why it's called a vacuum bomb. Since it is spreading aerosols before the ignition, it's also called an aerosol bomb or a fuel air explosive. Now, such bombs are considered to be inhuman when used in conflict because they don't discriminate between combatants and non-combatants. It can cause very extensive damage to civilian areas and civilian population as well. Now, let's say a country like Israel, which claims Hamas militants are hiding in a hospital. If it fires a thermobaric bomb at a hospital saying there are Hamas terrorists, right? This bomb will not spare anyone. There could be civilians, there could be doctors, patients, everyone will be incinerated. Literally, they'll be turned into vapor. That is the kind of pressure and temperature that gets generated through a thermobaric vacuum bomb. Is that clear? There is a long history of countries using such weapons. For example, in World War II, Germany had used them. The US used thermobaric bombs in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, because they can be very effective in caves and mountainous areas when you're targeting terrorists. When US was hunting Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, thermobaric bombs were used. Russia allegedly has used it in Ukraine, in Syria, right, when it was fighting Islamic State. Then Myanmar has been accused recently of using such bombs following the protests, the pro-democracy protests against the military regime. And Israel also has been accused of using such bombs in Gaza while fighting Hamas. So civilian population can be hurt disproportionately by these bombs. But however, there is no international law that explicitly prohibits the usage of vacuum bombs. Is that clear? It's not entirely illegal. It's not explicitly illegal. There is no international law prohibiting its usage. But if a country is deliberately targeting civilian areas, deliberately using disproportionate force against civilians and using thermobaric bombs to commit human rights violations, then this could breach other international covenants like the Hague Conventions, the Geneva Conventions, and following this, charges of war crimes can be pressed against those countries. Usage of thermobaric bombs can be used as evidence to press war crime charges, crimes against humanity charges, citing the violation of Hague Conventions and Geneva Conventions. But as of today, there is no international law prohibiting the usage of thermobaric bombs. So the topic was very much debated throughout the last year, even recently over the last few weeks. So it's very, very important. Now coming to question number 14. This question will help you understand another important concept. Last two questions for today. Stay with me for a few more minutes and then we can wrap up today's session. The acronym R2P, seen frequently in global affairs, stands for what? Does it stand for responsibility to protect, recycle to prevent pollution, recycle, reuse and produce, reject paid propaganda? I see that a lot of students are opting for option A, some are opting for option C and D. So there seems to be some confusion. So let me tell you what is R2P. It's a very important concept in global affairs, particularly with regard to the affairs of the United Nations. It stands for responsibility to protect. Option A is the correct answer. See, in 1990s, there were few horrific incidents that happened in Yugoslavia and Rwanda. In Yugoslavia, there was a dictatorial regime that committed war crimes and genocide against its own population and also against the other minority population in the region, in the Balkan region of Europe. In Rwanda, in Africa, the dictatorial regime committed a genocide against its own population. So following these mass atrocities, there was global awakening that international community has to step in. They have to intervene when such atrocities are being carried out by any country, by any regime. See, there could be a civil war going on where two sides are fighting against each other, causing enormous damage to civilian population. Or there could be an authoritarian regime targeting its own civilians. Or there could be a war between two nations, right? Or there could be a terrorist group engaging in mindless violence, causing mass atrocities. In such instances, global community should not sit idle. That was the idea after these genocides and war crimes in Rwanda and Yugoslavia. So one of the UN committees, the International Committee on Intervention and State Sovereignty, it recommended a concept called R2P in the year 2001. Following the Balkan Wars and the genocide in Rwanda, this concept was proposed by this international committee established by the UN. And it was adopted by the United Nations in 2005 at the UN World Summit. Now, what do you mean by R2P? It stands for responsibility to protect. Essentially, the UN member states are committing that they have a responsibility to protect civilian population when such mass atrocities are being carried out. So in certain instances, the United Nations through the UN Security Council can use any possible measure to protect civilians from such genocides. The UNSC can impose economic sanctions and it can even approve a direct military intervention if required by using the forces of other UN member states. UNSC can approve the invasion, essentially, a military intervention in another country to ensure that the civilian population is protected. Now, this is a tremendous power meant to be used for the right circumstances. But unfortunately, many times, concept of R2P has been misused for geopolitical reasons. For example, in the African country of Libya, when Arab Spring movement, the pro-democracy revolutionary movement had spread against the regime of Muammar Gaddafi, Western countries exploited the R2P concept to serve their selfish political interests. Since UNSC is dominated by the P5 countries, the permanent five, they've used their veto, they've used their influence to always misuse the concept of R2P. In the name of responsibility to protect and in the name of protecting civilians, Western powers led by US, UK and France, they approved the intervention, the military intervention in Libya. They carried out a direct military intervention. Eventually, they toppled the Libyan regime and even Gaddafi was assassinated, right? And they have further perpetuated the crisis in Libya. Today, Libya is a war-ravaged country. It's destroyed by civil war. It's affected by radicalism and terrorism. And part of the blame lies with these Western powers, which further destabilized Libya because they just wanted regime change. They wanted to topple Gaddafi's regime, which was anti-West, which was against American and European interests. So there have been instances where R2P has been misused. So recently, the concept is in news because of ongoing conflicts in Ukraine, in Gaza. The calls have again come up that UN should use this extraordinary power to authorize a military intervention in some of the conflict-torn areas to protect the civilian population. Even though the concept has a good intention behind it, in many cases it has been misused on geopolitical grounds. Is that clear? Now coming to the last question for today. Another important conceptual question. Silkworm eating strategy of China, often referred to in news, is also known as wolf warrior diplomacy, salami slicing tactic, debt trap diplomacy or panda diplomacy. Read the question again. See if you have heard about these terms in current affairs. So silkworm eating strategy of China is also referred to as what? Is it debt trap diplomacy, wolf warrior diplomacy, salami slicing tactic or panda diplomacy? Use the literal meaning of silkworm eating, right? That will actually help you understand what could be the strategy and you can correlate that with other similar strategies. Let me give you the right answer. 49% have said debt trap diplomacy. Majority of them have given the wrong answer. The correct answer is option B, salami slicing tactic. Now this is of direct relevance for India as well. See, China, as you know, has been this aggressive power which does not hesitate from exercising diplomatic pressure or even resorting to military aggression in order to protect its interests. So there are different strategies and tactics that China uses to establish its dominance, and the media outlets, Western governments and even strategic thinkers and analysts, they have coined some very interesting names to be assigned to these tactics and strategies of China. Officially, there is no such policy called silkworm eating or salami slicing or debt trap or even wolf warrior diplomacy. These are all terms coined by the media or by think tanks or by experts and analysts or sometimes by Western governments. All right, so let's quickly understand what are these terms, and that will give us the explanation for the right answer. Now, please look at the first image. It's a depiction of China's salami slicing tactic. Salami is a processed meat which you cut slice by slice. Now, experts say that this is what China does with other countries, with neighboring countries with whom it has territorial disputes, like India, for example, Bhutan, for example, Mongolia, Russia, and even maritime disputes with Southeast Asian, East Asian countries in South China Sea, in East China Sea. So what China does is that whenever there is a territorial dispute, it slowly annexes the territories in an incremental manner, in a gradual step-by-step manner. Because if China resorts to full-fledged war, there will be global resistance. There will be fight back by the other country. So instead what China does is that it will take incremental steps. It will carry out small incursions once in few years. It will try to negotiate. It will try to buy time. China's negotiations is always a time-buying tactic. We have seen that with Ladakh clashes recently, with the Doklam dispute. We have seen that with China-Philippines, China-Japan as well, right? That's what China does. Initially, it deliberately shows military aggression, right, with regard to its territorial disputes or maritime disputes. It slowly annexes some part of the territory, changes the status quo, and then it appears to negotiate. It appears to show it has a good intention. This is simply a time-buying tactic. So over a few months and few years, China will change the ground situation. It will change the status quo itself. It will strengthen its military infrastructure, military position, and slowly it would have annexed that part of the territory. Now it will repeat this again. So this is a very slow process where China is incrementally annexing territories and showing its expansionist behavior. So this is called salami slicing, and it's also called silkworm eating. Have you ever seen a silkworm eat? It eats very quickly, but right, it goes from one leaf to another. It bites off small pieces. Right? They eat very aggressively, but they eat at a very slow pace. So China's strategy of incremental annexation of disputed territory is similar to silkworm eating. So both are similar tactics. Usually in Taiwan, the term silkworm eating is used. The term itself has its origin in East Europe from Hungary, but Taiwan's media think tanks, they have used this as China threatens Taiwan's territory. Western governments call it salami slicing. For example, China has occupied part of Ladakh, part of Doklam, right? This is an incremental annexation which is happening. It's changing the status quo on the ground. So it's referred to as a salami slicing tactic. Next, coming to wolf warrior diplomacy. There is a popular series of Chinese action movies called The Wolf Warrior. It's a set of Chinese spy movies, essentially, where Chinese agents, Chinese diplomats are seen to be very aggressive against the enemies of China. This movie became a cult. It became a rage in China. And ever since Xi Jinping came to power in 2012, it's believed that Xi Jinping has urged his intelligence officers, military officers, and diplomats to be as aggressive as the wolf warrior, the protagonist in the movie. So that's where the term comes in, wolf warrior diplomacy, which urges Chinese officials to be as aggressive as possible when defending Chinese interests. Next, debt trap. China is known to give out these so-called concessional loans to small, poor countries, and eventually it traps them in a debt burden. China is not interested in the commercial value of these projects it is funding. It's actually interested in the strategic value in the location of these projects. Like, for example, the Gwadar port in Pakistan, which is part of CPEC project. Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. Most of the projects will fail commercially. These small, poor countries can't repay the loan and they fall into the debt trap of China. Eventually, China gets access to these strategic projects and potentially it could give it a strategic angle. It could give it a military angle and turn such ports and airports and other projects into possible military facilities through which it can project its military power. So that is the debt trap diplomacy of China. Then finally, you have China's panda diplomacy. Pandas are native, endemic to China, and China has gifted pandas to several countries to build friendly relations. It's been used as a diplomatic tool. You might have heard of cricket diplomacy between India and Pakistan. How cricket matches have been used by Indian leaders, Pakistani leaders, to create a positive environment for India-Pakistan relations. Similarly, mango diplomacy of Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, where Sheikh Hasina sends out the unique Bangladeshi mangoes to India and other countries as a friendly gesture. Just like we give out gifts to our friends, our family, to build good relations. Similarly, countries have the habit of gifting, right? Gifting something unique that represents the country. So China gifts pandas to the zoos of other countries, gives it on loan to build a closer diplomatic relationship. All right, it's a soft power initiative essentially, and China has practiced this for many years, and this is called panda diplomacy. So on this note, I would like to bring the second session to an end. We have discussed 15 important questions and more than 20 related topics. So I hope you guys have liked the session, understood all the key topics we have studied. So if you like the session, do press the like button without fail. That is something which will motivate us to do better for you, to bring better content. And if you're liking the quality of the questions, if you're benefiting from the entire series, do let us know in the comments and attend all the sessions live. It's just 31 days program. You just have to spare 90 minutes and we promise you will cover more than 600 topics, and this could be very helpful for your upcoming prelims. So do let me know what you think. If you have any questions, I can be there for a couple of minutes, any doubts, and after that, let's close the session for today. Aniruddha Sharma is asking, sir, India has many initiatives to counter China, but none of them are successful despite being backed by Western countries. Why? See, there could be many challenges for the Indian projects that we are pursuing. Maybe India's relations with those countries, like for example, Iran. The bad India-Iran relations affected the Chabahar port project, the INSTC project. Or it could be internal problems in the region, like IMT project, Kaladan project with Myanmar has been disrupted because of the internal security situation in Myanmar. Or it could be funding related issues. For example, in Nepal, we have proposed many hydroelectric projects, but we haven't been able to raise the funds and provide consistent financing. So projects have been derailed due to the lack of ability on the Indian side to arrange adequate financing on time. Or sometimes it could be a difficulty in execution, right? The location might be complicated, so India might face difficulties technically in executing a project. So there could be many reasons why the projects might face hurdles. All right, so these are some of the questions that I could see here. So let's meet again tomorrow. I want all of you to come back at 7:30 p.m. for the third session for international relations. So that is it for now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.